Hi, everybody. I have a special guest. It's a Justice Democrat, and she's also affiliated with the brand new Congress, and she's primarying a corporate Democrat in the 14th Congressional District of New York. Please welcome our guest. She is a organizer. She's a former social entrepreneur, and now she's going to shake up the Democratic Party. It's Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Hi, Alexandria.
Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic now that you're with us because you are exactly what the Democratic Party needs. You are young, full of energy, and progressive ideas. Tell me, what made you want to get into this race and what made you want to primary a corporate Democrat?
Well, I think we realized last year exactly the extent of problems in terms of the influence of Wall Street, not just in the Democratic Party, but in our political system in general. And if we're really going to have a representative democracy, we have to mount primary challenges by candidates who are grassroots supported and are not purchased by private industries.
And you don't think the Democratic Party is already doing that?
I mean, what I will say is that there are progressives in the Democratic Party that are mounting serious challenges, and we aren't afraid to mount challenges in districts that are previously seen as lost causes. I think a really great example here is Christine Pellegrino. She just ran a phenomenal race here in my home state of New York, and she took a district that went 20 points to Trump last year, and she turned it into a progressive district with progressive representation. And I think that is the future of this country. That is what is possible when we actually organize people, educate them on the issues, and really represent authentic issues that lift ordinary working class and middle class Americans.
So let's talk about your race in particular real quick. You are primarying Joseph Crowley, who is tell me about Joseph Crowley. Now, people would say you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to primary a Democrat, but he's not really. He's a Democrat in name only, and isn't that true?
Well, I think what my opponent represents is a very, very challenging and disturbing trend in our electoral politics. We do have some good votes in this seat when it comes to issues on LGBTQ representation, but really, this seat has a very problematic incumbent, and I'll tell you why. It's because Joseph Crowley, again, he's my opponent. He accepts $3 million a year in Wall Street, real estate, and corporate finance industries. The problem with that, when he accepts so much money, he's never been primaried. And because he's never been primaried, he takes this $3 million a year that he raises, and he brings other representatives into the orb of Wall Street. He doles this money out throughout the Democratic Party and Congress, and then as a consequence, he's become a very, very, very powerful member of the House of Representatives as a Democrat, and he's gained an enormous amount of influence, spreading corporate influence around. As a result, he's never supported single payer until the week that we announced our primary challenge to him.
Oh, so it's like you're already having an effect, and which is exactly what we wanted. And just let me piggyback off your point about him getting the $3 million, and he doesn't need the $3 million because he's never in a primary race, right? So what does he do with that money? He gives it to his friends, which shores up his power inside the Democratic Party. So if you look at Chuck Schumer, he's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. Now that guy looks the opposite of a leader, just physically, just the way he presents himself, he talks. He's the opposite of a leader, and he has no progressive policies. So how does a guy like that become a leader of the Democrats in the Senate? Is because he gets all the cash from Wall Street, and then he gives the cash to his friends. So when it comes time to vote for leader, they give it to the guy who gave them cash. So that's exactly what's going on in District 14, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is why this race is so incredibly important to anybody who's following progressive politics across the nation. If we can primary this incumbent, then we will have rippling effects nationwide on the impact of money in politics. If we can primary this incumbent, then that means we take $3 million a year outside of this system, which is incredibly influential when it comes to House races. So that's why this seat is so important. And if we can stem that influence nationwide, then not only do progressives stand a chance in other districts, but we also bring the incumbents that are already there left. So it's a win-win either way.
So it's about taking back over the party, the Democratic Party, which the problem, the reason why we have Trump is because the Democratic Party turned its back on its base, which is workers, right? So they got in bed with Wall Street, and you can't be in bed with Wall Street and represent workers because Wall Street's agenda is diametrically opposed to workers. They're anti-union. They're about taking good jobs in America and then turning them into bad-paying jobs and shipping them to foreign countries with more poor people in more desperate situations. And so then they get more money. So that's why the money isn't circulating in our economy, because we keep exporting our good jobs. The corporations become more profitable, but that money doesn't what they call trickle down to the people. It stays in the hands of just a plutocracy, which is why we have income disparity greater than the Gilded Age right now. People don't realize that. Is that correct? Did I break it down kind of right?
Yeah, so long as we have candidates of any party that are purchased and unduly influenced by special interests, we will not get Medicare for all. We will not get minimum wage. We will not get fair and just immigration reform. We will not get worker protections, and we will not get trade deals that fairly treat the middle class. And so long as corporations have an undue influence, and so long as Joseph Crowley takes $3 million a year in special interest money, we are not going to get policies that advocate for and advance the lives of middle class people. We're not going to address climate change as quickly as we need to. We aren't going to get the infrastructure spending by unionized workers as much as we need to. So long as this influence is here, we're not going to get anywhere when it comes to the everyday, everyday quality of life for families.
I couldn't agree with you more. You know, in Baltimore, the Democratic candidate for mayor ran on the $15 minimum wage. She won, and then she vetoed the $15 minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Right now, the California Democratic Party, which Bernie Sanders has referred to as the bright spot in the Democratic Party, the Get California section, they just last week thwarted the will of the members, because the members are overwhelmingly progressive, but the people who run the party, again, rigged the system, and literally they just elected a pharmaceutical lobbyist as the chairman of the Democratic Party in California. So we need people like you more than ever, and this is more important more than ever. What do you say to people who say you're being a bad Democrat by primarying Democrats?
I think that Democrats who put middle class needs behind corporate needs are bad Democrats. We're supposed to be here as representatives of our government that are advocating for the people in our districts. It doesn't make any sense that, for example, my opponent, the median income for our district is around $47,000 to $41,000 a year, and he's voting against family protections and consumer protections like in Dodd-Frank. He's voting to deregulate big banks, the same ones that bankrupt families and force foreclosures, and they're slowly taking away the protections that make middle class life viable in this country. So if you really want to know who your representative is voting for, go on Ballotpedia and see who's paying them, because that's their real employer. That's who they're actually working for. However, one thing that I do need to say here is that once we do get elected into office, we have to pass comprehensive campaign finance reform, because it is not viable for everyday people to be pouring billions of dollars into elections. That in and of itself is a model that needs to stop. And so it starts with this progressive surge. It starts with people organizing, educating their neighbors, but it ends with campaign finance reform so that we can make this change permanent and it doesn't cost billions and billions of dollars to create an electoral industry in this country.
So what do you say to the Democrats who say you can't bring a spoon to a knife fight?
Oh, when they say that we need to outraise, we need to outfund. Well, my question is, how is a corporate Democrats cabinet going to look any different than Trump's, who has a treasury that are employed by Goldman Sachs, by Citigroup, by other businesses with predatory behaviors? How is a Democrat going to be any different than that, with bigotry aside, with racism and sexism, etc. aside? When you brush all of those problems aside, what is the main difference between a corporate Democrat and a corporate Republican? It's that difference is starting to narrow. And as a consequence, people who actually champion everyday working people are thinning out in our representation. But when our country is made up of hardworking families, then our representatives need to champion them. And frankly, corporate industries have a place of influence, and it's the free market. They have no business in our government because that is the area for the people.
I could not agree with you more. We all see the problem in our politics is that our politicians no longer work for the people. Even if they ever did, they certainly aren't doing it now. And there's the undue influence of corporate money that's completely corrupted. When people say about Bernie Sanders, oh, you can't have single payer because that's fairy dust, that's pie in the sky. They never finish the sentence. The sentence is, that's pie in the sky and it'll never happen in your country. You know, that thing the rest of the Western world takes for granted. It'll never happen in your country. And if you think it will, you're a fairy dust or pie in the sky. You don't know how things work because your government's completely corrupted by corporate money, and they're going to keep you sicker and paying twice as much for your health care as the rest of the world because you live in a corrupted society by corporate cash. That's why we can't have single payer. Not because it's a bad idea, not because it's not doable. It's not doable because our government is corrupt, and if you don't accept that, somehow you're not a grown-up. Isn't that what people say?
Yeah, I think it's funny because this country, it's built on audacity, it's built on big beliefs, it's built on ambition, it's built on doing things that people have never done before, except when it comes to healthcare. We're really just catching up with the rest of the world. We're not doing anything new. We aren't making any innovative breakthroughs here. I wish we were. I wish we were presenting something that was really progressive and really out of the box and a new idea that we can test for all, but we're really not. We're implementing the same systems as Germany and the UK and many other nations. And by the way, our healthcare outcomes reflect the fact that we don't have single payer. Our maternal mortality rate, more women die in childbirth and in pregnancy in the United States than in any other developed country in the world. This is a no-brainer here. And for everyone that says it's a pipe dream, let me tell you, this is something that we've crunched numbers on. I have a training, my academic training is in economics, and we've crunched numbers on single payer. New York has a bill right now, and if it wasn't for the IDC led by Jeff Klein that is killing this in the Senate, we would be having single payer in New York State right now. And when you crunch the numbers, a person making about $55,000 a year would only be paying $60 a month with the New York proposal in healthcare. Right now, someone making, say, $40,000 a year under Obamacare would be paying $200 a month, and that's conservative, for an $8,000 deductible. That person's never going to go to the doctor. But with New York system on $40 a month, $60 a month, depending on your income, you get full medical, dental, and dental health, dental and mental health coverage. And a healthier society is one that is more productive and more innovative. But I wish we were being innovative on this front. We're really just implementing policies that have been proven to work, that are proven to be solvent, and are proven to drive innovation in other developed countries already.
So the problem is you're making sense, and so the corporate media is going to smear you. Have they smeared you yet? Because it's coming.
They haven't yet, but I have faith, and I think that people know what's coming. I'm tougher. I'm maybe tougher than I look because I may be young and but I'm from the Bronx, so I'm ready for a fight.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yes, you certainly don't look like a tough guy, but you certainly have a lot of spine and you have a lot of integrity, and you're on the right side of the issues, which is the important thing. You're on the side of the 99%. You're not on side of the big money donors, which is what's wrong with the corporate Democrats, and that's what's wrong with Joseph Crowley. So everybody, go check out Alexandria Cortez. Did I say that correctly, right?
Yeah, be sure to check out our campaign website. It's ocasio2018.com. Sign up if you're in the district, donate to our campaign, and be sure to check out brandnewcongress.org and Justice Democrats.
Okay, thanks so much for being a part of this show. Thanks for sharing your message with our listeners. This is what we need more of, right? We need more people rejecting corporate money because at the end of the day, I don't care what party you're in, but we need to have an authentic conversation about public policy. And we can't have an authentic conversation about public policy if I don't understand why you're saying the things you're saying, and it's because you're bought by someone. If you're saying what you're saying comes from your heart and your head, that's fine. We can have a real debate. But if what you're saying is not coming from your heart, but it's coming from your wallet or your checking account, that's why you're not making sense, and that's why we can't. That's why we have a horrible government that we have right now, which has turned its back on the people. So getting the money out of politics is the biggest thing. You're certainly on the right side of that issue. Single payer also would change our country in ways people can't even imagine. People not having to worry about health care all of a sudden lowers the tension coast to coast in America. You know, I went to Canada about 10 years ago, and I spent 2 weeks there in Winnipeg, and I noticed that as opposed to the nightclub workers in America and the nightclub workers in Canada, the nightclub workers in Canada were a lot less stressed. And you know why? Because they had the same health care as the guy who owned the club. They didn't have to worry if they lost their job or got laid off or whatever, that they wouldn't be able to go to the doctor, or their kid wouldn't be able to get medicine, or they wouldn't be able to get their treatment. They knew everything was going to be okay. And that's that there's so many unintended good consequences of single payer. Plus, it's good for our economy, right? People then don't have to stay in dead-end jobs. They can then go start businesses without worrying about health care. It's such an important thing to get done, and it shows that when people come together, government can work. That's the big thing, I think, Alexandria, is they don't want single payer because it would prove to people that government can work. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, and we also know that one of the big reasons that healthcare is so expensive, something like 20% of healthcare costs go into billing. Just hiring the people to bill and collect money and bill bill medical procedures properly. That's 20% of your healthcare costs. It is much more efficient. If this system is more efficient, it's more viable, and it provides better healthcare outcomes. I think what you said was so important. When people have their healthcare covered, they start businesses, they take risks, and that's exactly the DNA that is part of America. It is that risk taking, but we need to be able to provide the infrastructure that allows people to do that and pursue the opportunities available to them.
Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, everybody check out. What is your website again?
Ocasio2018.com. OCASIO 2018. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. Good luck, and we hope to see you in the general.
Thank you. Hope so.
The next live Jimmy Dore show is June 19th in Burbank, California, and July 15th in San Francisco at the Great Star Theater. For all links for all tickets to those shows and our full schedule right there, there's a link to jimmydorecomedy.com. We'll see you at those live shows.